welcome back to the newsletter. How are you all? I hope that you're well. I hope you're finding time to be creative and find time for yourself to do what you want to do. It can be really difficult to fit that into the day, can't it? I have to say I've not managed very well to do an awful lot of creative stuff over the last few weeks. You know, when I find that I'm in that situation, I always turn to my sketchbook or my sketchbooks, because there's usually more than one on the go at any one time. So I thought today in this little vlog I'd show you through this book that I'm working on at the moment and talk you through a few of the techniques that I've used. So this is a newish book. Got this one at Christmas, one of my Christmas presents. I'm really enjoying it actually. It's got a nice soft leather cover, and I started off by just using pen in it because, you know, and I'm trying to keep things simple. The easiest thing is just to grab your sketchbook and a pen and nothing else, and just to draw that way. And I started doing this kind of art journal diary approach, but honestly it's just not my natural way of working. So I did 2 days, lasted 2 days on that, until I just drift off into doing much more random things in my sketchbook. That said, I am working with a bit of a theme in this book, which I dare say isn't going to last. You know, I'm sure I will wander off topic. But I just started by looking at eyes as a subject matter. You know, you kind of sit there with your blank book and think, well, what am I going to draw? Well, just draw whatever is to hand, you know, draw whatever's there, and you are always there. So you can look in the mirror and draw yourself, or take a selfie and draw from that if you prefer to work from a photo or from the screen. So I've done some pencil studies there of my eyes, and I was thinking about, you know, have you ever seen those Georgian jewellery, sometimes necklaces, sometimes brooches, which are of just a person's eye in a circle or an oval shape, and they often have gems around them. Have a little look. I think there's some in the V&A, which you can look on their website and you'll spot them. They're so fascinating. You know, to think that they're so old but they still look so contemporary. And I really like the idea of just this circle with just seeing an eye. So I've done a couple of those, and in this one I've even tried to suggest the idea of little beads, often pearls I think in the original ones. Then of course I go off track, and I wanted to explore some printmaking ideas that I've been researching. So I did some work here, so a digital drawing on my iPad here that I've printed out, and then I've used that drawing to make these plates. So if you've been following along with us, you'll have seen me experimenting with these on a little print press. So these are 3D printed plastic plates, and instead of just printing with them, obviously you can always use them for rubbings as well. So I've taken a rubbing of that one there, and believe it or not, under this drawing here is a rubbing. You can trust me, can't you, because it's kind of the right scale. So I took a rubbing there, and then drew into that as well. So sometimes I use a rubbing just as it is, sometimes I use it as a basis for a drawing and work into it. So this is very quick sketching, often done late at night. And these are some of the prints. Now I have shown you these before on one of our little newsletter vlogs, but I think at the time they were probably just loose, hot off the press. Well, I like to put them into a sketchbook so that they have a nice home to live in. So I've just started sticking these in. So sometimes I printed this one, I tore out the page of the sketchbook partially, there's the seam, printed it, and then when the print's dry I've stuck it back in, I've rejoined the page back in, the original page. And this book, I'm finding it takes the prints really nicely, so printing directly into the book is something I really enjoy doing. Other times I've just been printing onto loose sheets of paper, and then I'm sticking these in. A little bit of Monoprint there. I'll go quickly through these because these, you can see, they're just at the stage of being collected into the book. I'm gathering everything together, getting it into the book. I'm adding in also some just collage papers. I tend to work in absolute utter chaos. This table is nice and clear because this is where we do our video presentations from. What you can't see behind the camera is the table where I actually do my work, which is covered, littered with stuff. And I keep all my collage papers just strewn about the place, because then I often think that you just tend to see something and grab it quite randomly, and you can pop it in, and sometimes you get these really happy collisions of where things that perhaps were made on completely separate days tend to work really nicely together. So when I see something, I think, oh, that's got potential, I'm going to just stick that in. So this little strip here, for instance, is a photocopy of another sketchbook page where I've sewn something into my book with a sewing machine, and I've used a zigzag stitch. And then, so I've photocopied that, and now that is a collage paper. But I've stuck that in almost like an aide-memoire, because I thought, where I'm putting in a lot of these prints that I've made, and they're just kind of lightly glued in, I thought, I think probably what I fancy doing is going to my sewing machine and using some stitch to really anchor that to the page in a decorative way. So what I'll probably do is, you can take your book, especially a softback book like this one, fold everything back, fold the covers back, and you can just get that under your sewing machine and do some very simple stitching there, which will just anchor that to the page really securely. And it's a way of also making some marks on the page, isn't it? This is a photograph, again, that just happened to be laying on the desk. And it's a photo. We had to have a skip here once when we were doing some work on the house. And this skip arrived, and it had these most amazing layers of paint. There's another photo of it. All kind of drippy paint, loads of layers built up, and it was scratched. And honestly, the skip hire man must have thought I was completely doolally, because I jumped straight in it and started photographing the skip before anybody had a chance to throw any rubbish in it. So I've got a little collection of these photos, but I just love the paint textures, the surfaces, the mark making, the colour palette. It's kind of what I like, is sort of very simple colour palette. And I just saw that laying on the desk. I thought, that's nice, I'm going to stick that into the sketchbook. You can see some of these prints. We looked at these recently, didn't we? There is a video workshop on the website if you're interested in pursuing this in more detail. But these are cardboard etching techniques. So using a press and using cardboard or other recycled materials like Tetra Pak to make print plates to create images like that. So if that's something that's piqued your interest, do head over to the website and have a little look for that workshop. It's called Printmaking Trash to Treasure, and that's still available. So you can see I've made lots of these prints, and some of them are failures, or nearly there, nearly okay. Some of them are okay. I'm just sticking them in quite arbitrarily at this stage, and then I might just add some notes, keep them as a record, or I might work into them a little bit. And there's another one from that video, and that's done using some milk bottle plastic, again, to create a print plate. And so yeah, do have a look at that if printmaking is of interest to you. So I've just stuck all these in basically, because it's better that they're in this book than they're just all over the studio on every surface. And like I say, I may work into these spaces, I might add colour, I don't know yet, but if they're in the book, then there's potential there for me. And I do think stitch will really enhance some of these. I've worked into some of these just using paint pens. So these, sometimes when you do something and it turns out really nicely, you get a bit precious about it. And then often I find with the rubbish ones, with the prints that don't turn out or the drawings that aren't very good, they almost give you license to experiment and do something with them, because you feel less protective of them. You don't worry about ruining them so much. So here, where I've got some prints that didn't turn out, just take the paint pen, the markers, and start drawing and working into them. So I've just been adding some lines. Here I've been, again, testing out some more print ideas, and I'm going to be bringing you a new workshop hopefully next week on these ideas, which are more collagraph ideas, but collagraph without a press. Because these are fantastic, but they're tricky to do without a press. And so always looking for ideas that they're more universal, that we can all get on board and experiment with. So I've been doing lots of trials, printing directly into my book quite often, doing lots of testing with different ways of making plates and using different inks and paints to see the sort of results that I can get, so that I can hopefully preempt all your questions and answer them in the class. But I'm really pleased with how some of these have turned out. I said I was working with eyes as the subject matter, but previously I've done some work using these silhouette heads as a motif. And you know I like circles as well. I just love it. A simple circle is great as a way to add pattern into the background. So revisiting that, because I think when you are experimenting with a new technique or a process that kind of extends your knowledge a little bit, which is what I'm doing here, it's nice to work with motifs that are familiar to you, because you can just jump straight on board. You know, you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking about motif and subject matter and scale and all of those sort of things, because this I already know, and I know that these combinations will work, so I can get straight into it, and then it's just about testing the process. So more experimentation here, bringing in a little bit of text along with those silhouette heads. So these are all just print at this stage. They haven't got any extra work added into them. More eye motifs, and here again more eyes and more pattern. I really like a combination of figurative with geometric pattern. That's something that I've used quite a lot in my work, and it's just a really happy combination. So when you find something that, you know, works and you like it, let's stay with it. This is a little scrap paper ghost print, but I really loved it. I popped it in there. I thought it worked quite nicely with that one as well. It's perhaps crying out for a bit of colour, and I might go back to it. These surfaces are great to add colour to with pens and with pencil crayons. More test prints. Here's one. I was working into this one just last night, because I think, you know, if you have a mad couple of hours in the studio and then later on in the evening, you know, sometimes you just want to change a pace and you just want to sit quietly. And I take my sketchbook with me and just review it, look back through the pages, see what I've done, having that little rest from it and then coming back to it. I think it gives you a fresh eye, and you can just sit then and work more slowly and draw into things and add detail and think about things like composition a little bit more, because, you know, part of all of this has just been doing stuff and sticking it in without much thought and contemplation about what it is, and then later you can go back and refine things and kind of fix things if there's mistakes, or, you know, just things that need addressing. So I'm just using a black fine liner pen. So, you know, again, I think keeping it super accessible and easy and just using what there is to hand. You know, in the evening, I don't want to sit in the house and get all of my paints out and that sort of thing. I just want to keep it clean and easy. So a pen is perfect. So I've just been doing some simple line work here, cross hatching, extending these, this pattern motif so it fills the whole page. And again with this figure, you know, the body, the shoulders, because of the size of the print plate I was working on, it was just abruptly cropped there. And I stuck it in position where it wanted it to be on the page, nice and high up in the available space, because that meant that all of this is empty down here. But you know, using that pen to draw it in, I work with a lot of closely spaced lines that make me think of the sort of stitching that I might do if this ever gets into stitched work. Just helps give me all the clues. And there, here, this is the final page I've got to at this point. So this was a print, and because print is so fast, you can run off quite a few. And again, it's about that idea of not being too precious with what you're doing. When you've got lots, you don't have to worry about, you know, spoiling the perfect ones. You can just cut them. So here I've cut out a print. You know, it's quite a nice print, but I've got others, so I don't worry about it. I cut it out and cut that silhouette shape into it. And I'm exploring the idea of having these eyes. You know, they started out just being drawn in those circle shapes way back at the beginning of the book, and it's kind of developed into them being fitted within this silhouette head or silhouette figure shape. So that's sort of what I'm working on at the moment, working towards ideas that bring those things together. And I think, you know, the sketchbook is a fantastic place to work through all these ideas, isn't it? You can see none of these pages are perfect, none of them are refined and resolved. It's a real place to think and work and explore through ideas, because, you know, we often get asked, you know, how do you come up with these ideas? And you just have to find them. You have to discover them and work through your book, and eventually ideas will present themselves and you finally get there. So that's where I've been spending some time this week. I hope if you've enjoyed seeing these sort of ideas that you'll head over to the website where you'll find, you know, big assortments of workshops, lots on printmaking, lots on Monoprint where you don't need a press, lots of stuff on sketchbooks. So yeah, I hope we'll see you over on the website soon. But thanks for joining me, and if you're receiving this newsletter into your inbox, then please read on down where you'll find more information. If you're not subscribed to our newsletter yet, if you've just stumbled on this video here on YouTube, then I'd really encourage you to head to our website, designmatterstv.com, where you can sign up for free for our weekly newsletter. Comes directly into your inbox. You'll get our videos, you'll get links to our workshops and other interesting information and things that we've come across that we think are inspiring, we want to share with you. So we'd love to have you join our mailing list and kind of follow along with what we're doing. So thanks very much for watching, and see you again really soon. Bye.